Hello and welcome back to episode number 21 here of Inside the Vault, a Carolina Panthers podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Smith. And as you know by now, this podcast is brought to you by the Keep Pounding Podcast Network, where you can find us on Twitter at KPPounding_FSSN and powered by the Fans First Sports Network. And you can follow Fans First on Twitter at FansFirstSN. And rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. That would be great. Well, here on episode 21, my latest guest on Inside the Vault, he is owner and co-founder of the 4-Man Rush. You know him well. Follow him at 4MR_Country Kev, and those were both with K's. Kevin Avery, welcome to Inside the Vault, my man. How's it going?
Hey, I'm doing good. How about yourself? Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, I'm doing well. Trying to get through this Panther season that we're on right now, this 2023 edition of Carolina Panthers. As I do with every podcast, to start, let's just get your observations from this season as a whole, and then we'll get into the more nitty-gritty. 1-12 is our current record after the Saints game last week. So your overall observations from the team this season as a whole to start.
Well, as far as my overall assessment, I can definitely say that I came into the season with some, I like to say, logical expectations of some success. The NFC South was widely regarded as a very wide open division coming into the 2023 season. And, you know, with the moves that the Panthers made, things that the front office said, you know, as a fan, I was like, okay, we actually got a shot at this thing. And, well, as you mentioned, 1-12, and here we are. So just overall, you know, a lot of things that we kind of had pulled over our eyes or were led to believe have been exposed as the season wore on.
Yeah.
In the preseason, you know, when we saw the lackluster offensive performance, it was just like, oh no, we're just holding everything back for the for the regular season. This is just vanilla concepts, nothing to worry about. We're saving everything week one. Okay, I can buy that. And what do? Save everything for week one and go out there and only score 10 points in a 24-10 week one loss to a hated division rival on the road at their place in the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah.
And, you know, from that point on, it just began to slowly snowball into an avalanche of disappointments for us Panther fans as the season grew on. Obviously, early on, the defense gave us enough chances to be in position, but after a while, they got tired. I think weeks 5 and 6, we had back-to-back 40-point losses to the Detroit Lions on the road and to the Miami Dolphins, went into our bye week. And after our bye week, it seems like, okay, nobody else in the division is playing extremely well. We still got a chance there. Let's fix whatever needs to be fixed. Let's get on a roll, and boom. Then we mess around and get a win at home over the Houston Texans. All right, cool. All right, we got one in there. You know, that's a building block. Let's go from there. And then it just continued to. While the defense definitely, if I'm not mistaken, has been top 5-ish, you know, since then. Matter of fact, I had checked prior to coming on. As far as total yards per game, Carolina defense is ranked 4th in the NFL right now for the season, in spite of being 1-12. So obviously the defense got the memo and got themselves straightened out. You know, if you take out those 2 40-point games, they could logistically have a shot at being probably like the number 1 defense, you know, during the season, in spite multiple levels of starters and injuries on all 3 levels: defensive line, linebacker, defensive back, all those hits. So um, it's just been an eyesore offensively to watch. Wide receivers not getting separation, offensive line not forgetting what pass block mean. Not a lot of push in the run game. Play design looks very limited, not putting players in position to succeed, and it's just been, like I said, it's just really just been a combination of just a lot of unfortunate circumstances that has pretty much tarnished the 2023 season.
Yeah, well said there. Let's get into it, specifically recapping the Saints game this past Sunday. 28-6 loss down in New Orleans, the Big Easy. We saw, like we saw in the Tampa Bay game, we saw some more motion. We saw play action. We saw Bryce under center this week. But I feel like this week, the lack of wide receiver one really showed itself. Bryce did miss some throws. We had the one to Mingo, especially, that stuck out, where he had separation and Bryce just missed him. But we also had a blocked punt for a touchdown, so special teams killed us this week. And then Hubbard ran for 87 yards. Sanders 74 yards with a long of 48, as the team ran for 204 yards on the game. We outgained the Saints in total yards, time of possession, rushing yards, total plays, and yet we still lost. So all that's to say, a lot of good things this week with a lot of bad. So real quick, just thoughts on this game, and then going forward, we'll get into the Falcons game in a little bit.
Yeah, so with this game, the thoughts of it is, as much as I am a big advocate of, running game, me being a trench guy myself, I think nothing's more demoralizing than just lining up and just running it down your opponent's throat at will. But to have over 200 yards rushing and only 6 points to show for it, no touchdowns, it truly supports the theory out there that, points come in the passing game.
Yep.
Because now this game was played, 20, 30 years ago, this would have been, a much more different, result, likely, with, the amount of rushing yards. But it did establish the fact that what we saw the week prior at Tampa, well, I think we had 135 yards in that game, showed that the run concepts that worked successfully towards the latter half of the season last year were finally being applied and used. And those concepts are running more power gap run plays where quarterback is taking snaps under the center, as you had mentioned earlier. And for those that don't know the difference, power gap is where the offensive linemen block downhill. They block the guy that's directly in front of them, slightly to the left, slightly to the right. They're moving ahead, and the running back goes to a designated hole. Is it the A gap between the center and the guard? Is it the B gap between the guard and like, that's where the running back heads to, versus zone, where the linemen step, together, either all to the left, all to the right, and whatever crease is opened up, that's where the running back goes. And
right.
And so that's the difference. So we went more back to the power gap schemes that made us very successful, during the latter part of 2022 season. And it definitely showed. Any quarterback would love to have 200 yards, to support them. But as you previously well stated, the issue was the passing game. Yes, I would be the first one to say Bryce Young missed several opportunities with receivers that finally did get open, finally did get some separation, and just simply, flat out missed. And oddly enough, for the first time, we're finally hearing things about Bryce Young's footwork, which was never something we heard about prior until this last, couple of games. So I'm thinking that it's a combination of the wear and tear of the season, shell shock, maybe anticipating pressure that's not there because he's getting hit so frequently with it. I just think that it's just a combination of the season itself is starting to show up in Bryce Young's footwork. Um, and I just think that that just led to the missed opportunities. Doesn't help that I think there were like 6 drops
Yeah,
as well.
at least.
I mean, it was just like there was enough blame to go around, for everybody. But of course, when your quarterback, fair or not, if the pass game's not going to get good, it's primarily going to be placed at the quarterback's feet for the lack of success. But this was what a 14. This is still a one-score game.
In the fourth quarter.
Mid fourth quarter at that, like 6 minutes left. So the final score is not an indication of the game, whatsoever. And I think the thing that boiled my blood the most was that when Sanders did break out that long run, got us to the 1 yard line, and the next play we're in shotgun and we're running the ball.
Yeah.
I don't care if the entire Saints organization knows what play we're running. If I got to line up 4 times and run that ball straight with my quarterback under center to get that 1 yard, that's what I'm going to do. You're going to have to show me that you can stop me 4 times running the ball under center. This shotgun, pistol, whatever, anything where the ball goes back 2 or 3 yards before the run, it irks my soul. I don't, if you don't like Bryce Young being in there because it's sight, put Andy Dalton in to run it. Whatever you got to do, but there's no need for us especially on the 1 yard line to be there. And as you see my facial expression, like I said, that's how much it annoys me. But overall, the final score is not an indication of the game whatsoever. But at the end of the day, you are what the scoreboard says. We just find ways to beat ourselves. We more so beat ourselves more than the New Orleans Saints beat us.
Yep. Going into Sunday's contest now, moving forward, back at Bank of America after some time away, 3-game road trip. We faced the Atlanta Falcons, who you mentioned 24-10 loss in Atlanta week 1. Bryce threw 3 picks that day. Jesse Bates had some picks on him. And let's preview this game a little bit. We're 3-point home underdogs, which should surprise nobody, being at 1-12. And we'll get some predictions after this as far as down the line. But what do you want to see in this game against the Falcons? Obviously, we know the playoffs are no longer a possibility for this Panthers. Not that we thought was going to be a possibility anyway after a 1-6 start. But regardless, officially, now that we are officially eliminated, what do you want to see against the Falcons? We'll first start with the Bryce and the offense side of the ball.
Okay, offensively, I would like to see, due to the weather conditions that they're calling for Sunday, which is going to be a very rainy period, because last Sunday in Charlotte, it was a very rainy Sunday here, Ryan. So with that said, that tends to favor going more with your running game. Mm-hmm. So I would like to see a very similar rushing performance offensively out of the Panthers. I would like to see a little bit more personnel variation. More 2 tight ends, more 12 personnel to be used. Now, I know that Tommy Tremble and Hayden Hurst were out, which only left Ian Thomas and Stephen Sullivan at tight end. But we've been running 11 personnel, which is 1 back, 1 tight end, 90% of the time. So even healthy, they wasn't getting a lot of double tight end sets. But I would like to think that with this game, that would be more incorporated. I would like to see us, not have any turnovers. Of course, that's with any game. But again, self-inflicting, get rid of the self-inflicting wounds. Let's shore up, punt protection, for one thing, because this is a copycat league. So I'm sure that play has been watched over numerous of times to feel like, okay, can we duplicate the same result? So, until you show you can stop it, you're going to get tested in that area. So I do expect the Saints to Falcons to try to imitate what the Saints did on special teams. I would like to see, like I said, due to weather, it doesn't have to be a huge yardage day offensive, but I would like to see key conversions in the passing game when we need it.
Yeah.
Being able to move the sticks. Like you wrote the stats, to dominate the stat line like that, time of possession, total yards, total number of plays, all of that. We're gonna need a similar type of performance. And as crazy as it may sound, even with the difficult weather, if we can somehow manage, we can come up with about 20 to 24 points. I think that'll be more enough to beat the Atlanta Falcons,
I definitely
because
think so. Yeah.
because if anybody's watched them play, for the weapons that they have, a lot of their fans are moaning and groaning, complaining about their coaching as well. Um, with the talent, with the usage of their rookie running back Bijan Robinson, their third-year tight end who they drafted number 4 overall, Kyle Pitts, their first-round wide receiver last year, Drake London. I mean, when you think about those, you would think the Falcons would be an offensive juggernaut, but they haven't been, and a lot of the blame that I've heard from friends of mine who are Falcon fans has been at the play calling. So not only have Panther fans been complaining about our play calling, Falcon fans have been complaining about theirs as well. Plus, they have had multiple injuries along that offensive line as well. So there was ever an opportunity to, quote, steal us a win. This game presents the opportunities this upcoming Sunday.
And then on the defensive side, with Brian Burns, Derek Brown, and we'll get into those guys specifically here in a second. But what do you want to see as a whole for the defensive side?
Man, I would like to see us have a sack party for once.
I would love that too.
I understand it's not going to be frequent, but I would just love to see about, at least 4 sacks. I would like to see about 8 to 10 quarterback hits. Just putting body on the second-year QB Ritter, because a lot of their play passing is coming out of play action. Because they do run that outside zone scheme. That is something that they do. I just like the opportunity for our defense to, particularly our defensive line, because we've been hearing about Derek Brown, who's having, one can even argue, an all-pro caliber type of season.
Yeah.
So far. Now, if you're one of them basic stat junkies who, he only has 1 sack, what kind of defensive tackle is that? Then you're completely missing the value of the game of Derek Brown. I think Aaron Donald has ruined it for other defensive tackles, that they're not putting up big sack numbers week in and week out.
Yeah.
If you look at his quarterback hurries and hits, he's one of the top 5 defensive tackles, playing at his position right now. But I like to see a game where our defensive tackles, Shai Tuttle, and I don't know if the other guy that we signed, I don't know if he's back, but we've been rotating on the defensive line. Like I said, we've been having injuries. Rashawn Williams, that's it.
Yeah,
I want to see a game where they're impacting the blocking schemes. Some tackles for losses, some blowing up the plays that allows our linebacker core to swoop in. I just think, like I said, with the weather forecast, I think that the Falcons are going to try to duplicate what they did week 1 against us, which was both Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier to have pretty solid running game against us. If I'm not mistaken, I think all 3 of their touchdowns were on the ground against us week 1. With Algier, I believe he had 2 of those. And then I think Bijan Robinson scored on that swing pass where he got past Shaq Thompson. So I think that they will try to duplicate that same formula here. So I expect both teams to be run heavy this upcoming Sunday, and I just feel like that defensively wise, we're playing a better defense than the Falcons right now, and I just feel like that the opportunity is there, especially with our secondary. With J.C. Horn, getting himself back in the groove. Also, Von Bell, coming, getting us up, these guys that have missed significant time or working themselves back in. Jeremy Chin,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah. So I definitely favor our defense to put out the better performance this upcoming week on the defensive side of the ball.
And you mentioned Derek Brown and Brian Burns, so we'll get into them here. Derek Brown, like you said, he's a bad man. This season he is coming on a strong. He's taken his game to another level. Quick nugget that I saw earlier today, which I think you might have seen as well. The Panthers have actually not allowed a 300 yards per game against any quarterback this season. So our defense is definitely balling out. And that starts with Derek Brown, as you mentioned, having that Pro Bowl type season, someone who's taken his game to the next level. And then Brian Burns, he had those strong start in Atlanta. And then after that, he's been very inconsistent at times, especially with this contract thing that kind of held over him over these offseason and into the start of the year. So my question to you is, I've started to see fans say, well, forget Brian Burns now. Let's assign Derek Brown to an extension first. Brian Burns can wait now. Let's slap the franchise tag on him. He can wait. Derek Burns is now Derek Brown is the new priority. What do you think about that? Having Brown now as the priority number one, and then Burns, slap the franchise tag on him. He'll still be here next year on that franchise tag.
I think that, as much as I love Derek Brown and was probably the happiest when we drafted him, I think that fans have quickly forgotten about the impact of Brian Burns, how that his whole tenure here, outside of that 1 year in 2021 when he had Hassan Reddick on the opposite side of him, it's pretty much been Brian Burns or bust as far as our type of our pass rush, because who else can you think of that he's had to have run opposite of him that has ever been able to give that double-edged sword attack from a pass rushing perspective?
I cannot think of any. We've seen flashes from guys like a Marquise Haynes, like a Gross Matos, but outside of that, no. Like you said, Reddick has been that one guy.
Yeah. So I just think that it's a lot of forgotten noise, and then fans are also so quick to compare, use, like I say, sacks as the ultimate telltale, of a defender's game, particularly in the front seven, whether you're a linebacker or whether you're a defensive lineman. I still think re-signing Brian Burns is top priority. I like to commend him for playing this season when others have held out.
Yeah.
He would have had absolutely every right, had all the leverage, but this is a guy that truly wants to be here. He's running risk of injury, and possibly, risking the quote big payoff. Once the Panthers refused to trade him for, I believe, a deal out there was for 2 first rounds and a third.
Yep, from the LA Rams, correct.
Right. So for me, I was like, okay, boom, that's our guy. We're not, turning away. That's when we're gonna continue to build our, defensive round. He's the core player. He's the leader. His defense. He said that. He said these are the guys I want to be in the trenches with. He was one of the first ones to congratulate Shaq Thompson for taking a lesser deal to stay here because he was committed and wanted to go. He said these are the guys I want to play and win or lose with. So for this notion that players are only about the money, I think that we have some players on the team that, yeah, business is business, but I love going to work with the guys I go to work with. So for me, I suppose us fans, we're tied to our opinions, but for me, our top priority should still be securing a long-term deal with Brian Burns, because that's going to do numerous of things for us. Number one, that's going to open up our salary cap to be able to add more players via free agency to kind of offset the the loss of the talent of players that we could get because we don't have a first round pick this year. So we're really going to have to be strong in free agency. Plus, let's be honest, we're not exactly the most attractive place right now. So we're going to need some extra money to kind of overpay or compensate to get guys to come here. So getting a deal done with Brian Burns first, who is would definitely be the route I hope that we end up going on, whether that's if Scott Fitter is retained or not, or whoever the new GM person.
Yeah, save that. We'll get right into it.
Okay. Yeah. So for me, it's Burns first, then play Brown and Frankie Louvu.
Yeah, that's another good one too. Yeah. One last one, and then we're gonna do a lightning round kind of to finish before we get you out of here. What players should we be watching down the stretch in these last 4 games? Who do you see as the guys we need to watch? I'll say outside of Bryce and the guys we mentioned, maybe Derek Brown and Brian Burns. We mentioned them already. What are some other guys we need to watch down the stretch?
Me being a trench guy, I'm gonna go back to the offensive line. 2 guys I want to see how they play the rest of the season out is center Bradley Bozeman and left tackle Ike Ikwanu. Both of them have given up 8 sacks each so far. I know that a lot of the venom or toxic that you say is on Twitter has been towards Ike because he's a first round pick. We took him 6th overall. And I get it. He has definitely regressed here, but Bradley Bozeman, whose directly in front of the quarterback, he's been as big of a turnstile as anybody else as far as pass rush. Allowing the quarterback pressure get to the quarterback. He's given up 8 sacks himself, which is tops amongst all centers starting in the NFL. So those 2 guys, I would like to see how they perform, for the rest of the season on the offensive side. And if I could say on the defensive side, now that he's back, I want to see how J.C. Horn performs as well. He's missed a lot of time, and that's been unfortunate, but I want to see how he performs down the stretch.
Yeah. Let's go into the lightning round a little bit, and some of this is going to be quick answers, and kind of we can get into some predictions before we get you out of here.
Sure.
What does Bryce Young need around him? A simple question, a lot of answers, but what are the priorities that Bryce needs around him going forward?
Going forward, number one, protection. Number one would be protection. There's a lot of questions about his size coming in. The fact that he's played with the amount of hits that he's taken is unbelievable. So for me, protect Bryce Young, and then obviously get some weapons in the passing game.
Yeah, that's a good one. Specifically now to the offensive line, protection, like you said. Do the Panthers just need depth at the offensive line, or do we need to upgrade positions such as guard and center? I think those are the ones that fans have been focusing on. Some people believe, like you said, Icky better suited at guard. I personally believe with better coaching, I think he'll be just fine at left tackle. I think a lot of veteran offensive linemen, I've heard say it's year 3 when the linemen actually start gelling, especially left tackles. As a whole. So, but we've lost both guards obviously this season, and then Bozeman has regressed a little bit, but to his own volition, he has said that the zone scheme has not been the best scheme fit for him. So, thoughts on that?
Yeah, a good coach, whoever the next one is going to put a scheme in place that allows players to be their best. So I will hope that we can go back to like I said, a power gap blocking scheme that allows Bozeman, Icky, and others to perform better. But as far as improvement, yes, the interior offensive line needs to be rebuilt. This is back-to-back years that starting guards have not been able to finish the season with us. I think we're down to like 3rd string guards now. So for me, yes, both guard positions, because Corbett, I don't know how old he is, but he's coming back-to-back injuries. Here, Brady Christensen coming off back-to-back season-ending injuries. So yeah, we definitely did show up the interior.
Corbett is 28.
Okay. So he's not old at all. Okay.
No, but like you said, the ACL and back-to-back injury is not the best on that there. Okay. And then I was trying to get Brady Christensen's age, but I think he's like 25, 26. He's not that old, I believe. But,
Right.
Anyway, regardless. Next one is, who should the Panthers look for in a head coach? Who should they get? I will say my top 3 targets are very simple. This might be yours too. Ben Johnson, Detroit Lions OC, Frank Smith, Miami Dolphins OC, and Ajero Rivera, defensive coordinator currently of the Panthers.
Okay. All right. Those are definitely 3 popular choices. Well-deserving choices. I'm gonna go a little bit different here. As far as my own opinion, number 1 for me would be current Panthers defense coordinator Ejiro Evero.
Okay. Yeah.
Because things, as for me, it's got to be so much more than X's and O's when you're the head coach. You got to be a leader. You got to be a leader of men. You got to be someone that can establish culture. He's shown that no matter what deck you give me, I'm gonna keep my unit running. So I think that he goes on that most. So he would be my number 1. Here, number 2, may spark a little controversy here. Steve Wilkes. I think that now, if he's willing to, that's the different question. But I like Steve Wilkes. Yes. A public apology in a nice bag, I think, would be what it would take. But yeah, he's a proven commodity as far as what I said. Leader of men and someone that established a culture, which is so much more important than just knowing X's and O's. And then number 3, I like the Miami offensive coordinator. Anyone from the Kyle Shanahan tree, limb, branch, whatever you want to call it. I definitely like when I watched the game with the Dolphins, the fact that they use a lot of 21 personnel, use a fullback, double tight ends, different motions, all that. I like that. So those would be my 3 choices.
Yeah. Scott Fitterer, brief thoughts on his tenure and does he get retained?
I keep it real brief. His tenure, I gave him a pass because when I found out Matt Rule had final say on personnel decisions, so everything up until this past year, I gave Scott Fitterer a pass for. I felt like it was Matt Rule's, but just off this year alone, he's definitely failed. Primarily not re-signing Brian Burns is one of the biggest things on the shoulder, and then where's the impact players in free agency? So no, he should not be retained. If you're going to clean house.
Yeah. David Tepper's ownership, I didn't have time to get into this with you here, but basically, and I think with David Tepper, I think it's very simple. I think this has already been written by a lot of writers. Take a book out of Jed York from the 49ers, where he just stepped back, let his guys coach. I believe he fired close to the same amount of coaches that Tepper has, and then he landed Kyle Shanahan. So maybe that's the key. If Tepper can realize that, we'll see.
That's our biggest prayer. Because man, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love David Tepper. I think he deserves a lot of the criticism, but I just think that if, like you said, if he could just shut the up, write the checks, sit back with his wife Nicole, and let football people do the football things. Because he's always said, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I think if he does that, I think we'll be just fine. Because right now, he's got a toxic relationship, and it's not looking good around for not only coaches, but free agents as well.
One guy we did not touch, we'll give a tease. We'll have the guys follow you on Twitter to get your takes on Bill Belichick. We'll have guys look at some of your past tweets on that to give the fans that. So go look at Kevin's Twitter on Bill Belichick. He has quite some thoughts there. Well, as I said at the top, my guest today here has been Kevin Avery of the 4-Man Rush. Kevin, always good to see you, and thanks for coming on Inside the Vault. Anything else you want to plug since we got you real quick?
I just want to like to say thank you for the opportunity again. I appreciate you being a fan of my work, which is a representation of the 4-Man Rush. I just like, people to just, come follow us, check us out on Twitter, where it'd be happy to also come check us out on Facebook as well. We also have an Instagram page, and we have our own YouTube channel as well. so where you can go back and check all of our podcasts out. And if nothing else, you can always go to our website, which is www.the, the number 4, manrush.com. That'll lead you to all of our social media platforms that I've mentioned. So, come check us out.
Awesome. Well, Kevin, thanks again for coming on here on Inside the Vault, and we'll talk to you down the line.
Look forward to it. Take care. Stay warm out there and keep pounding.
All right. Well, that will wrap up episode number 21 here on Inside the Vault, Carolina Panthers podcast. I'm your host again, Ryan Smith, and we will see you next time. Again, rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcast.